I respect this so much. Dude, I take back everything I said about Charlie sometimes being a fence sitter. This is one issue where like he would make the most by just never talking about it ever, or even, dare I say, taking a transphobic position, a transphobic stance. This is so I have so much more respect for him. This is one issue online where they will cook your ass, brother. This is an honorable thing that he has done. Apparently, MOISTCR1TIKAL is scaling back on his podcast and like quitting being online or something. He wants to go on an indefinite hiatus, scaling back his time on the internet according to an announcement sent to his Patreon subscribers. I think this is just like him distancing himself from the podcast. Beyond that, I think he was being canceled by right-wingers who were very mad at him. Why were they very mad at him? It's because he said this medical decision of like taking puberty blockers or you know, HRT of any sort should be kept between a patient, a doctor, and if the patient is underage, parental consent. The thing is, like, this stance that he has here is a stance completely defended by the medical community. But people lost their minds on him. Here, let's watch the clip.
Go through hormone therapy. Can they change their gender if they're a child?
I think that's totally fine as long as everyone is consenting, as you agree with.
Okay, so as long as everyone...
If your parents are okay with it and you are okay with it, I think that's totally a familial decision to make, yeah.
Okay, so a child can cut their penis off and take hormone blockers and change their biology forever, but they can't get married?
Well, that's a decision that now extends beyond the family, because now you're bringing in a different party. So if you have someone that's your...
That's wild, by the way, because that's not a real thing that happens. No, a child can't cut their penis off. You're weird, dude. What the is wrong with you? You're thinking about, one, baby dick being chopped off, and two, you're bringing it up as a weirdo, and number three, you defend child brides, bro. This is unacceptable. That's not a thing that has happened. That's not a thing that can happen. That's not even a position that Moist has to defend in this circumstance. It's not, because it's not a thing that happens. It's just made up by right-wingers who are constantly imagining a world where it's happening. The only time where it could potentially happen, well, it happens all the time in terms of circumcision. That's number one. But the only time a situation like that could occur is if there's like literally a life-altering procedure that a doctor has to make in that moment, like a life-saving procedure that will be life-altering like that. That's it. That's it. It is crazy that the Republicans make it seem like doctors are just chopping off baby dick left and right. The reality of the matter is there is a ton of psych evaluations that occur before you even get to the position where you can even take puberty blockers. Okay, it's not like over the counter. You can't just like walk over to your fucking local Walmart or your local CVS and be like, yo, hit me with some HRT, doc. And then the pharmaceutical, the pharmacist is like, oh, I don't want to do this, but woke, here you go. Having said that, as far as bottom surgery, top surgery, especially bottom surgery, especially if you are obviously under the age of 18, that's not a thing that's happening. The only place where it's happening is in the minds of conservatives. And it's wild that these guys are like, medical procedures should be kept between a health professional and the patient. No, I actually should be the one consenting. I am who? A random guy on Twitter with a blue check mark. I should be the one that makes these decisions, not these doctors, okay? It's like, bro, you are a dumbass. You are a stupid person.
Yep. I don't think that can happen under any circumstance.
So,
no.
But it's still a personal decision. You're still deciding.
Because there's
take the other party out of the equation.
It's
a personal decision. If I'm 16 and I personally want to marry this girl, she's beautiful. She's 21 years old. Her family wants to do it. My family wants to do it. You're saying I can't do that. We're both consenting. I'm ready to go. I'm physically mature, but I'm not allowed to marry because Moy says that woman's a pedophile. But if then the next day I leave it, I'm depressed, I want to cut my penis off, I can go right into the clinic, snip it off, and start taking HRT like Chris Tyson. That's a society that makes sense to you?
It is. I believe everyone has complete, I believe everyone.
Dude, doctors are the ones that are making this decision. There are psychiatric evaluations. You can't just like walk into a woke gay clinic and they're just like, oops, you just walked through the penis guillotine. Sorry, you're a woman now. Like, that's not how this works. These people are insane, dog. Anyway, so Charlie, despite the fact that normally he is like very I would say he's almost allergic to like having controversial takes in a lot of instances, and has cultivated a massive fan base of people from all different various political backgrounds as a consequence of that, coming out and swinging in this situation with controversial groups such as the American Pediatric Doctors Organization, or what are the organizations that have written the guidelines for this? It's like we got the American Medical Association, I believe. It's the WPATH Standards of Care. I can't believe that he got canceled because dumbass Nazis on Twitter were against the better judgment of medical professionals. Can a child be allowed to decide such a heavy decision? Brother, can a child decide if they have a broken bone to be put in a cast? Yes or no? If a doctor decides in this situation that the cast is the most appropriate measure to take in this circumstance, why the do you think you have a say? If a child is a type 2 diabetic and they believe that he needs insulin pumps pronto, do you think that the child should get the insulin pump? Or do you think we shouldn't give the child an insulin pump because children cannot make any medical decisions whatsoever? The whole point is children must be protected at all costs, which is why in society we have third-party adults sometimes who are licensed professionals who we allow to take care of our children, teachers being one of them, right? We leave our children, or sorry, not type 2, type 1 diabetes is what I was referencing with the pump. Comparing that to diabetes wild? No, it's not. The only reason why you think that comparison is wild is because you think trans people are icky and gross, and you don't consider this to be a medical decision that medical licensed professionals who have studied the matter extensively have decided is the best pathway forward. But instead, it's just like weird. It's weird. I don't fully understand it. Like gender dysphoria, okay, as a medical issue has been extensively studied. It has been extensively studied. These are people who have researched it. They figured out best pathways forward. That's just how it works in science. You might not like it. That's just how it works, though. This is not an aesthetic choice for the child. In the eyes of the doctor, this is a life-saving measure. That is why it is allowed. Children with cancer get life-saving measures that are life-altering as well. Children might get amputations. These are not aesthetic choices. These are things that doctors have thought long and hard about and have decided could be the best pathway forward. In terms of puberty blockers, this is the way to go according to every medical institution in this country. Is it not a spectrum? On what? In terms of what? There is no aesthetic choice in this circumstance, okay? People aren't transing themselves for the memes. You are delusional if you think that. People used to say that about gay people back when it was more fashionable to on gay people instead of trans people. What attention? It's only negative attention that you're getting. Like, it doesn't make any goddamn sense. People do not undergo the rigorous and tumultuous, sometimes emotionally complicated process of gender confirmation for the fucking memes, dog. It's not a phase. Like, this is a very real situation. It is a well-documented medical phenomena. So luckily, these scientists, these goddamn nerds, are actually studying the matter and finding the best pathway forward instead of listening to dumb Republican idiots on Twitter and making decisions that way. Thoughts on people that regret transition? Yes, great subject. If you were to look at mainstream media like the New York Times, all the way liberal New York Times, by the way, all the way down to like right-wing outlets, you would think that 120% of trans people that get that undergo this process actually regret it. But if you actually look at the data readily available, once again, medical regret is very commonplace with plastic surgery, for example. Plastic surgery has a super high percentage of medical regret. I forget the exact number, but you know what the medical regret percentage is for transition, for gender confirmation surgery? 0.4%. It is unimaginably rare. Compare that to any other procedure, and you are going to have a significantly higher percentage of medical regret. It's higher for knee surgery. It's higher for, obviously, for tattoos and the like. This is why the idea that like trans people are detransitioning in a rapid clip is ridiculous. It's higher for LASIK. Yes. But why are there so many articles on this? Perhaps it's because there is an agenda. And no, the agenda is not pro-trans. The agenda is anti-trans. Additional detransitioning facts is the social pressures that come along with the transition that cause people to detransition as well. Not all detransitioners are like, oh, I'm not trans at all. Some detransitioners literally are like, no, I'm still trans. It's just that like this wasn't for me in particular. So there's that reality too. And in many circumstances, there's a lot of extra pressure from society that is obviously there. That's the reason why there's such a high suicide rate for trans people. Are you watching the Moist video? Yes.
What a week, huh, sports fans? Holy Toledo. Being serious now, since this has become such a big issue, I've been in a lot of drama recently. I'm in hot water and I'm biting on the fart bubbles that pop up in the bathtub here. It is a lot. So let's start with the most recent one today. My retirement. I didn't know I was retiring. That's news to me.
Bro, this has literally happened to me. Remember when I was in my own Discord, like responding to chatters and some chatters were saying dumb shit. I was like, I'm going to kill myself. Responded to a chatter. And then that shit was literally posted out of context. And I'm having the time of my life in Australia with my friends and shit. And then I start getting calls from normies who saw tweets. The real reason why I mentioned this from my own personal experience and how this has happened to me as well is not to be like, look at me. This is about me or whatever. It is a fascinating situation where people can just like make stuff up about you. And if you don't immediately address it, they're like, nope, it happened. Isn't this podcast with a reaction to a Turkish dude living in Germany calling you a pedophile one time? I don't know. I don't even know how to access Moist Critical's podcast. I do know that one of his homies that he has on his podcast, I think. I don't know if he's like he's on it all the time or not, but he fucking hates me, the Turkish dude. He fucking hates me. His name is Kaya. Yeah. He's weird as Kaya's also said a lot of pedo and incel shit in the past week. Wait, you mean to tell me another guy who just hates me and has called me a pedophile has said pedophilic things?
She just died? Wow. I didn't know that. You're telling me now for the first time. She led an amazing life. What else can you say? She was an amazing woman. Whether you agreed or not, she was an amazing woman who led an amazing life. I'm actually sad to hear that. I am sad to hear that. Thank you very much.
My favorite clip of all time. Anyway, why didn't Sneeko get canceled for saying pedo shit? Brother, because he's a right-wing guy. He's a right-wing troll. I think at a certain point, y'all are going to understand that when you're like a right-wing troll, you get this perma shield. Yeah, you got the vice signaling shield. It's because like the right is, as long as you say the right things that they want to hear, they don't give a what you believe.
So let's get into that drama. I've talked about it on stream, I don't even know how many times at this point, but we'll just talk about all of it in this video here. So, when covering the Ava Tyson situation, I was attacked by a lot of people for not being quick enough. Even though I covered it within like the first 6 hours, people were unsatisfied that
that's not quick enough. You should have predicted it.
That I hadn't made a video within like the first 20 minutes of it dropping. And then when I did finally finish the full video covering all of it, it was another massive problem where now I only did it out of an obligation because people called me out, and then I also got accused of being a transphobe because I didn't use Ava Tyson's preferred pronouns, which were she, her. I didn't know that. I thought just calling Ava Tyson by her name was okay, and I had also heard when I went to the Mr. Beast thing, someone refer to Ava Tyson with they. So I was truly under the impression that that was okay. And for that, I was annihilated by a good chunk of Twitter. And then annihilated by another good chunk of Twitter because I called out Sneeko, who was the main proponent about me covering for Mr. Beast to keep the collab alive. I wasn't talking about Ava Tyson because I wanted the Mr. Beast collab. And I talked about how absurd that statement was, especially given his history with fighting against the age of consent. He's been very vocal about how much he hates the age of consent, and so I talked about that briefly at the end of the video, which then changed the whole narrative for a lot of people where I never talked about Ava Tyson and only talked about Sneeko. So it was a complete lose-lose, because if I didn't talk about what Sneeko was saying, I would have been called a coward for not addressing it and talking about, like, well, he was going to cover for Mr. Beast until Sneeko called him out. So, like, if I didn't do it, I would have been attacked. I did do it, still got attacked. It really was unwinnable. But from that, spawned a conversation where I talked to Sneeko directly, because he was very upset that I was talking about how him rallying against the age of consent is file arguments, like defending pedophilia. As I've said, since the very beginning of this channel, I'm always willing to engage with people I disagree with.
He used they them pronouns in an attempt not to misgender her. Specifically didn't use he him. He doesn't clarify that very well here. Remember, like, for a lot of normies, like, trans stuff is difficult to parse through. It's not that simple. Even I sometimes, and I'm like, you know, I've been with the shit for quite some time.
And I thought that maybe there was a chance I misunderstood what he was trying to say, even though it's still abhorrent. I thought, okay, maybe he's not actually trying to defend pedophilia. He's like some kind of pseudo-intellectual debate bro who's trying to say something else. So I was willing to hear him out on it, and I talked to him in DMs, and he said he doesn't believe in the age of consent. He believes in the age of marriage, can't assign a number to it, but said that when someone can legally drive, they should be able to marry at the same time, which is literally like a 15 or 16.
Wait, what? As Muslims, we believe it's our duty to follow the law of the land. Bro, oh my God, this mother saying he's Muslim is so annoying, bro. I swear to God. I hate adult reverts who, especially in the influencer side, act like they are converting for content, specifically participate in the discourse as the most memed out version of Islam. I fucking hate these LARPers. Oh my God. And you know what I hate even as much as these LARPers? All the dumb Muslims living in diaspora who eat that shit up, who also are like so incredibly reactionary and also lean into that shit. And it makes me so unimaginably mad because you are basically playing a minstrel show for some of the most right-wing to point to you and go, look at these barbaric monkeys who believe in all of the worst. The white Christians also believe that same shit, mind you, but they can still point to you and turn around and go, all of you Muslims are like this. In the Western world, the understanding of Islam is so distorted. They do not see it as this religious belief. They think it's all like people who love doing philia and shit. So when you got a psycho who looks at Islam and goes, oh, wow, I am actually Muslim because I'm conservative. I am actually Muslim because I think women should marry at the early age of 15. That breaks my mind. I say this as someone whose name is Hassan, who is Muslim, who grew up in a Muslim country before people go, oh, that white boy is talking about Muslims. Motherfuckers are like, oh yeah, no, I love Islam. I love doing Sharia law. And it's like, bro, shut up. You grew up in like New Jersey or some shit. You come from a Christian family. All of a sudden you're like, oh, I love Islam because I want to marry children. Like, what are you doing? What the what is happening here?
I was willing to hear him out because, again, if this is some kind of crazy misunderstanding, I'd like to know that, because it'd be really scary for someone in his position with his level of influence to be actually advocating for adults marrying and children. That's a huge problem. So if there was something that he was like trying to say but failing to do so, I was willing to at least hear it. He eventually called me on Discord. I was under the impression this was just him and I talking. I had no idea this was going to be a debate. I thought he was going to try and explain himself like, hey, no, this isn't actually what I meant. This is what I'm trying to say. I thought this was a conversation between him and I, not this kind of debate show that he was putting on for his audience. There is nothing in our DMs that indicated that's where it was going. When I joined the call, he asked if I was going to record it, to which I said, I can if he wants me to, but I was also down to just talk. So I thought maybe he wanted it as a recording to like explain to people like, no, he's not actually a file defender or advocating for that kind of thing.
Bro, what are you doing, man? What are you doing? This dude is not like, this dude is a charlatan. He's a demon. I don't know why you thought that you would just like let him farm you. It makes me so mad.
I thought that is why he asked. I didn't know it was because it was being streamed, especially because one of his last DMs was about how he's doing an outside IRL stream and he would call me after. To me, that says when he's done streaming, that's when we'll talk, not as a part of his stream. I didn't know this was a debate nor a stream until about an hour and 40 into it, roughly somewhere in that ballpark. I am not a debater.
I need to fly back down to Florida, cook his ass in the courts again, dude. That's what I need to do.
I've never claimed to be one. I've always said that I believe conversations are the most productive because debates always devolve into what side can score the most points by explaining their thought process.
It's just like, Nico is not a serious person. He is just like a perfect grifter. He both is a, I guess, Muslim. I didn't even know that. While also simultaneously is a Nazi.
Is Hitler evil?
I'm not going to partake in this group thing. I'm out.
Why is anybody having a conversation with this guy?
Even if the position is wrong, whereas a conversation is a very different thing to me. So I didn't even know that's what this was. So obviously, I was unprepared for a debate. So I entered into the Thunderdome and we started talking. I made it clear that I found his statements on the age of consent and children marrying adults being hideous. Absolutely revolting. And then he started arguing about, well, what is a child? We must define a child, you know. It's not actually being under 18. It's all a bunch of hooey. And I really think if you have to start arguing about, well, what technically is a child? You're already way too far gone. Like, that is so weird. And in no uncertain terms, multiple times throughout the debate, Sneeko says that he is okay with people that are aged 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 marrying adults that are 18 or older.
We're talking globally. Let's just talk globally. Like, do you think it is okay for, I'm not talking about just you specifically anymore, anyone. Do you think it's okay for anyone in their 20s, an adult, to marry a 15 or 16-year-old?
A 21-year-old, if there was a marriage where the father consented and the daughter consented, and it was both good on both families and they wanted to do it, why am I going to get involved? Why should we get the government involved?
Even get back a little bit. Do you think there's not a problem with a
Predation. That's the difference between like gay people, adults, having a consensual relationship, which hurts no one, versus like an adult having sex with a child, which is pedophilia because the child can't consent. Therefore, the adult in that situation is taking advantage of a child not having all their mental faculties in order. Why is this a conversation that we're having? That is very harmful for the child's development. That's why we have laws around this sort of thing, age of consent laws. Marriage does not change that reality. It is still predation. You're being a predator. I did not actually think that the libertarian attitude towards age of consent laws and child marriages, which is not so subtle defenses, not so subtle defenses of pedophilia, would be actively had, like debates surrounding pedophilia would be actively had in 2024, the year of our holy Lord. What happened to shame? What happened to decency?
child being with an adult?
Okay, we haven't even agreed upon what a child and an adult is. You keep saying that it's 18.
Under 18 is child.
And I'm
Over 18
telling
is
you,
adult.
that's not even the definition of the word.
What is the number? It needs to be a number, or else you can do the same thing.
I just told you there's not a number.
Do you see why that's a problem?
No.
If there's no defined, so why can't a 12-year-old marry an 18-year-old?
Because most 12-year-olds haven't gone through puberty yet, and most 12-year-olds.
What if, as you just said, it changes? What if a 12-year-old went through puberty early, the parents consent, the 18-year-old and the parents consent? Can they do it?
Most likely that's not going to happen. You know why? Because Islamically, if
we're not talking most likely, just say it.
If the families have consented.
What do you mean Islamically, bro? What are you saying? Dude, he's in Turkey right now, and most Turkish people would look at what he's saying and go, what the f are you saying, dog? Are there people who would make this argument in Turkey? Absolutely. You cannot escape hogs. Hogs are universal. We have our version of them in Turkey as well. The universality of hogs, however, aligns on the principle of abolishing age of consent and defending dating and marrying children by justifying it with religion. The issue, however, is that in the Western world, people think that the entirety of Islam is like this and it's monolithic.
The kid is mature. The kid is ready. Why should I stop
At 12 years old. At 12 years old.
If the kid is physically mature, the parents consent, both parties are
A
happy.
12-year-old being physically mature.
That's the only line that actually makes sense.
Again, I don't think a 14-year-old can ever be physically mature.
Mm-hmm. Even though they literally can. Even though.
What do you mean? Whoa, dude, what? How did nobody yell at him over this? Why did more people try to cancel MOISTCR1TIKAL Penguinzo over him agreeing to the scientific community's consensus, medical professionals' consensus on like trans medical care for young adults and minors, while simultaneously no one was paying attention to what's going on here? This guy's like legitimately saying the most pedophilic you've ever heard.
It went all over the place with a ton of different things, but the big one, and this is what most people have focused on, which was my response to his question about kids transitioning. And the way he would pose that question would be by asking if I thought it was okay if kids who want to switch their gender go to the doctor and get their dick cut off. And when posed with that question, I replied with yes. And I've talked about this on stream many times now, and I'll talk about it again here. I thought he was talking in hyperbole. I thought he was just exaggerating, being over the top, talking about the entire subject of transitioning. I had no idea that any living, breathing human being actually thought that that's how transitioning works. where you just go into a doctor saying, I feel like
Yeah, like that's not how it works. Problem is, Charlie, you're living in the real world where you are exercising what is unfortunately a forgotten art, which is called critical thinking, where you think to yourself, of course, you don't just like walk into a chop shop where there's like a tiny guillotine and they immediately slap that guillotine on your cock. And they're like, oh, you're trans now. Like, that's not how that works. Except it doesn't matter that that's not how that works, because in the world of right-wing commentary, that is exactly how everything works. It's not about what the truth is, it's about what right-wingers have decided what the truth is.
Switching genders and they lay you down on the operating table and just snip your whole meat off. I didn't know that that's what he actually believed. I didn't know he was speaking literally. I thought he was just referring to the entire process of transitioning and just using this over-the-top statement to encapsulate all of it. Because you literally cannot get that surgery unless you are 18. Like, you actually have to go out of your way to be that stupid on the topic than you would just spending a couple of seconds looking.
And here come all the psychopathic right-wing weirdos who could be like, actually, in this extreme scenario, it did happen one time, so I guess you're owned. And it's like, oh my God, dude. Oh my God. Oh my God. You did not win this conversation. You were just a psycho.
Looking it up. There are very rare cases where someone under 18 has had...
You lose the second this conversation starts. There's no winning these debates. Brother, if you were to cave and capitulate the right-wing framing on every issue, you can say that about virtually every issue, man. The right have captured the online marketplace. The right have captured mainstream media on a lot of issues. Crime is out of control. It's not, but it doesn't fucking matter because it feels like it is, because the media keeps telling me it is. Trans people are doing crimes in our files. It's not the case, but it doesn't matter because everyone keeps saying it feels like it is. So maybe we should just, have the conversation on the boundaries they want to have it. Yeah, no matter what happens, yes, it always feels like it's a moot point. They're like a brick wall, right? You just can't do anything. But that should never stop you from advocating for the correct things, for the truth, okay?
I haven't hid this take, and it's not a new take from me. I've talked about this a couple times throughout the years on stream. I have no complaints if a kid gets interested in transitioning and starts talking to their family about it. So their parents start talking to doctors, the kid starts talking to...
I wonder if he knows someone who's like trans in his immediate life, because this is like, this is genuinely a breath of fresh air, I would say. And it's shockingly uncommon, especially for someone who's like a normie. Like, it shouldn't be omega based or whatever, right? But like, this is unfortunately a shockingly uncommon position in the United States of America amongst like people who are not super tapped into this kind of stuff. However, it is of course the literal consensus of the scientific community and medical professionals. So like, sucks, but we are so far removed from reality on the matter.
I recognize I did a horrible job of arguing in this debate, which isn't surprising considering I don't debate. This is not something that's in my skill set.
Was way impressed, especially when he didn't necessarily have the talking points down and ready to go, but stayed committed as he was being an ally here. It would have been easy to back off it and pretend that it just didn't happen. Dude, I respect this so much. Dude, I take back everything I said about Charlie sometimes being a fence sitter. This is one issue where like he would make the most by just never talking about it ever, or even, dare I say, taking a transphobic position, a transphobic stance. I have so much more respect for him after this. Like, I've liked him. I'm not shy about that. I say that all the time. I think he's a nice dude. But overall, this is one issue online where they will cook your brother. It is legitimately shocking that he just straight up openly was like, I'm not even well equipped to defend these positions, but I think it's the most humane approach to the subject matter. I'm not the best debater. I think debates are loser shit, which I agree they are, and it has nothing to do with like the reality or the truth or anything like that. It's just about yapping and talking points and being able to push them out as quickly as possible to make it seem like you won to your side. But ultimately, this is an honorable thing that he has done.
And I really regret not doing a better job here. It's not something I should have even done in the first place. I just have a tendency to really hope for the best out of people. And I was really hoping that I and most people were wrong about Sneako's perspective on the age of consent. However, unfortunately, it doesn't appear to be the case. I am supportive of the LGBTQ+, and I have been, and that's not something I've been shy about. I just wish I did a better job of expressing that. Everything just feels like a lose-lose, and it has been for like the last 6 or 8 months, I feel, where if I talk about something, it's a problem. Even if something is cut and dry as like Cody Ko having sex with a 17-year-old being bad, I caught a lot of for that too. I'm sure a lot of people probably didn't see that, but man, the amount of emails I got and a lot of the things I was seeing, even something as cut and dry as that was an issue when I talked about it. And then if I don't talk about something, or if I don't talk about something fast enough in the time that some people think is appropriate, I'm then accused of covering up for something for an ulterior evil motive. So it just really feels like a rock and a hard place where regardless, it's just going to be a massive flood of negativity. And a huge critique of me that I've always seen is Charlie's a fence sitter. He's just a fucking fence sitting enlightened centrist cuck, this and that. And I've always said for the entire time I've been on the internet, I'm not special. I'm literally just a normal guy who...
Listen, Charlie apology form. Give it to me. I'm writing it. Okay. To Moist from Haas. Okay. Date 7/31. Reason for behavior. The media convinced me you were a centrist. That's a click. I'm clicking on that. What do I miss? I miss balling with you. This is so dumb. I was jealous of your hair. Okay, that's another one. I'm checking that. I don't watch your actual streams. Okay, here's the streams. I don't know YouTube commentary. And then Mercury was in Gatorade. Okay, there you go. I will hereby respect MOISTCR1TIKAL, in parentheses, Penguinzo, and I will not talk down to the future first ballot Hall of Famer.